Welcome back to Parenting Shrink Wrap. Melissa and Sam here for a very special episode for all our dads out there. And this is ahead of Father's Day, and a very happy Father's Day coming up to everybody who's celebrating. And with two awesome dads here that are also colleagues and friends of ours. So Dr. Charles Parmele, who is an Annapolis-based pediatrician and one of the co-hosts of an upcoming podcast, Good Hooligans, and along with his best friend, Bryan Levy, who is a long-standing member of the Eastport Annapolis community, as well as founder of the Bowen Foundation, which is an autism-based foundation to help that population, as well as Bryan's professional experiences in the contracting world, so unrelated to mental health or being a physician, but they are both dads and come to us with years of experience, and we are thrilled to have them on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Can you tell us what...
As my grandfather used to say, all that and $1 will buy you a cup of coffee. It doesn't count for much.
You got to tell us, so Good Hooligans is coming out soonish, yes? But we want to know why Good Hooligans? What's that all about? Tell us about the title.
Well, so the idea behind it was that we recognize that we're all maybe not the best behaved at times, right? But even in the midst of our failures and mistakes and things like that, and we just actually, the last episode we recorded was all about the disasters that he and I personally have captained in our families, right? That there's still room to be a very good hooligan and to do your very best being a good hooligan. So that is that's the background of the name there.
It's kind of a reaction of part of the mission of our podcast is to help people really realize that we're all living real life. That's kind of what you guys are doing too, that this culture of perfection and optimization, and can I wring one more ounce of performance out of my kid or write one more great Christmas thing that says how wonderful our family is and shellacs over all the ugliness and messiness of life, so that we felt like that was a title that kind of captures it. We're all hooligans. We're just trying to be good hooligans.
I used to say that at weddings, you know that phase of life where you're getting invited to weddings all the time, and like when you're in your 20s, I always got seated at the hooligan table. Always. It was, and you know where it was? It was near the speaker. Always near the wherever the band or the DJ speaker was, it was blaring right near my table, so you had to scream. It's like they knew I could handle that, and it was usually the people who you're like, we can't have them near the table of honor. Like that would be bad. So
that's a compliment. Did you take it as a compliment?
I did. I was like, here I am again at the hooligan table, every wedding. Hooligan table.
That table knows how to have a good time.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
They put you near the speaker because they were afraid people would hear what you were saying.
There's a good chance of that too. Yeah, there's a good chance. Yes. Well, we're excited for this podcast. You know, as we think about the role of dad, you know, that's changed over the years. You know, there's as a non-dad, right? As a spouse of a dad, I'm thrilled with the way it's changed because my husband and I have a pretty equitable division of labor. I think we're both equally invested in our own careers as well as our children. And we do have some division of labor, you know, like things that we do differently. But in terms of I'm thrilled for kids and for dads, frankly, and for their spouses that there's now an expectation that dads aren't just sideline partners to child rearing. Like they are invested, you know, caring, integral characters, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
captains of a disaster.
Pip ends up doing that role at work too.
Yeah. So what would you say, so first of all, how old are your children?
So I've got a 24 and 22-year-old from my first marriage, and then I've got a 14 and a 12-year-old in my current marriage.
Okay. And Bryan?
23, 22, 22.
Okay. So like you've been through it, and Chip's like still in the midst. He's going through it
Yeah.
again. Like
Yeah. I
less
went back down the chutes and ladders. Yeah.
adolescence again, right? Like what when you hear me say like I'm thrilled that dads have a more central role in the family. Like would you agree with that when you think of your own dadding role versus like the dad that you had or your grandfather?
100%. I mean, good and bad though, right? Like I will say that there's still the outliers. There's still the dads who are the throwbacks. But there's also the dads to me that have gone too far in the other direction where they have kind of lost their. I have plenty of friends, several of them, who make no decisions. They avoid all decisions. They want to have absolutely no responsibility for anything. They put so much on their wife. And they go, but I do all the stuff around the house, and I do the. And I'm like, well, that doesn't alleviate the responsibility to be an example as a man, as a father, as a husband, as all those different things. I believe in masculinity just like I believe in femininity, and I don't think that they should interfere with the fact that I do the laundry. I don't think that should interfere. I really don't. I don't think that should interfere with the fact that I load a dishwasher, I clean the house. Those things are about respecting each other. To me, that's not roles. To me, that the Leave It to Beaver stuff is long since gone. Right? It's about I respect the person I'm in the house with. Number one. Number two, I want my daughters to grow up and marry somebody who's going to be a partner in everything and respect them enough to do things. And then the last piece of it is, for me personally, I want my wife to know that I appreciate what she's doing by showing her with my actions that I know how hard a lot of the things she's doing is. But I also expect a ton of that in return. I mean, that's me personally.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's a million ways to skin that cat. So then you get to, you're a therapist. I'm sure you say the word communication all day. There are a million ways to make this work in the context of a relationship. You said, you and your spouse are equitable, and there's a difference between equitable and equal. So that doesn't mean that you're 50-50 unloading the dishwasher and 50-50 doing the laundry. It's just, let's sit down and have a chat about what do you like to do? What do you hate to do? What are you good at? What are you not good at? And you're going to have to do some stuff that you're either not good at or hate to do. But how do we divvy this up in a way that makes us both feel, like we're respectfully working towards something?
And those breakdowns in communication are actually usually where most couples struggle. When that communication isn't there.
My wife had a great idea a long time ago, and it has helped us so much. She said we should have every Saturday we should have a check-in. She calls them check-ins, and we sit down and we talk about us and how are we together as a couple. We talk about the finances, where is the water level in the sinking ship, and then the kids. And then other stuff of like, I don't know, something else, the basement's flooding or whatever. And it sounds very strict and scripted, but when we do it and we're on our game and we do it every Saturday, or if we can't do it Saturday, and there's an alarm that goes off on our phones at 11:30. And if we can't do it, then we try to schedule another time. When we're in a groove with that, it's great. And then like everything else, we get full of ourselves and we think, oh, we got it. We kind of just let it slide. And then a couple weeks later, we're pissed off at each other. So that's been a very helpful, concrete thing that we do. And we try to frame it around, us, the kids, and the finances.
Have you found, Chip, that you guys have pretty different takes on the kids at times?
Me and my spouse, or me and my best friend?
Both. Why not?
Yes, we have. Me and my spouse have very different takes on the kids and what we should be doing and how we should be going about it. And so we just have to communicate about like what do you think's important? What do I think's important? We the reason for the name of the podcast, we bicker. It's ugly. You guys are therapists. You do this all day. One of my favorite mentors in med school told us, the sacred privilege of this job is that you sit behind a closed door with families and you get a front row seat to their lives.
Yes.
And I think a lot of families come in and they go, they're embarrassed and they think they're the only ones whose lives are messy. And I try in the first couple of minutes, go, dude, my life's just as messy. You're not telling me anything I haven't heard. I am not shocked by anything you're saying, no matter how horrible things are. And so I think just being messy is okay. And we bicker and we argue and then we try to come to it from a place of respect and come out with some action items.
This is so hard because Chip and I interrupt each other all the time on ours, right? We just go over top. I'm trying to not do that today. I agree. One of the things, though, that we've noticed a ton is that moms are so much better at talking to one another. They're so much better at sharing what they're running into, the problems they're having, what the kids are doing, the husbands are doing. Men don't do that. It's so rare that you see men that are having a parenting group, a conversation, a dad conversation, where they're being vulnerable and they're saying, I'm making mistakes, I'm screwing up. It's vitally important to hear you're not alone. It's vitally important to know whether it's normal or not. The example, right, is I'm a contractor. The example that I've talked to so many people about is, have you been prepared for what's about to come? And they're like, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I'm like, I'm like, imagine if the first woman to give birth, the first one, she didn't know that pain was natural. She didn't know that those things coming out of her were natural. She didn't know that the tearing, the bleeding, the greatest thing that the OB does for my wife, I remember, is to say, expect this. This is normal. This is okay. This is not necessarily bad at all. It's going to be okay. And I feel like women are so much better at talking to the younger moms and and even the moms their age that are going through the same things. Dads are horrible at it. And I think it's incumbent upon a dad who's been through it. It doesn't mean we're better. We say this all the time. It doesn't mean we know better than they do. The difference is we're just kind of sharing some of the places we've already stubbed our toes or really screwed up or tripped up and what we've learned kind of going through the process, because it's just not as much of it out there for men.
Tell what you just said the other day about your friend that you hadn't seen in a long time, you bumped into, and you asked how he's doing, and the answer
it was interesting. Yeah. You have the friends who are, you don't see them all the time, but as soon as you see them, you reconnect right away. Right.
Yeah.
And I see this guy. I love this guy. And we're at a fundraiser and he says, I asked him, I'm like, how's the kids? How's the family? Oh, everything's great. Everything's perfect. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This one's curing cancer and this one's doing this one's doing the other and blah, blah. And he's like, how are you guys doing? And I'm like, we're doing well. Everybody's healthy, right? Knock on wood. This one's having this problem. This one's having the other problem. This one's in trouble at school, won't do her freaking homework. This one, blah, 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 all the way across. And he hung his head and said, I'm so sorry. And I said, no, it's amazing. And he went, no, I forgot who I was talking to. This one, I'm afraid, isn't going to graduate because of just a lack of. This one's anxiety is so severe, I'm afraid they're never going to leave their bedroom again. And then he told me the truth. And I, afterwards, of course, right, with my experience, I looked at him and I said, you're doing okay too.
Yeah, that's okay.
Great. That's okay in this day and age, right? They're healthy and they're not using drugs and they're not, masking those things. They're letting you know they're depressed or anxious you're going to be okay, man. Just keep doing what you're doing. And it was such a great connection. And that's really a lot of what we talk about when we talk with each other. It's why I'm so lucky to have Chip.
That's been the length of our friend. I mean, we've been best friends for over 20 years, and it's like we'll just call each other. What the hell am I supposed to do about this? I don't know what to do about this. I'm lost, or the kid's lost, or somebody's lost. I don't know.
Am I overreacting on this one? No, you may be underreacting on this one. Those kind of things.
You should yell more. Yeah. Yeah.
Here's something I notice in the therapy office. Like when I have a family, or if I'm talking with, often if a client's a adult mom, there's some tiptoeing that sometimes has to happen around some dads, some spouses, and it has to do with any hint of being unsteady or like being off kilter or not know what they're doing. So that would be like a correction, or maybe what you did caused your child to like not have such a hot reaction to you. You know, like you could be somehow part of this. Dads will say, some of them, and I'm not generalizing, but like this can be a sticking point. Some of them will say, like, you can tell me anything, but with their body language and their tone, it's like, you can tell me anything, but if you make me feel fragile in any way, I'm going to shut down, start diagnosing my child. Like they do things inadvertently, and I know it's protective. They do things inadvertently to resist the vulnerability that goes along with the kind of dialogue you were just talking about, Brian. And I think that particularly athletic men, like men who are raised like former sports boys, you know, like they get stuck in this very small box of what it means to be a man, and like struggling and being wrong is weak and not to be disclosed.
So Chip, I want to say,
Go ahead.
I want to say one of these. So I will tell you, as you go from being a young man who defines their masculinity by what girls are interested in you, and then you go to being a young man that defines their masculinity, by how strong you are, or how this you are, or that, or the other. The big deal for, I believe, is to redefine yourself and let your masculinity be tied to the things that actually are going to get you to move forward, right? So a big thing for me is my masculinity now is directly tied to how my daughters look at me. It's directly tied to the relationship I have with my wife, right? And that's a big push. That's a big push when I talk to anybody, right? To my friends. You're talking about, you're dealing with people in the therapy world. Got all the friends who you talked about going to all the weddings. Now I'm going to all the divorces and all the funerals, right? So you talk to these guys and they're like, no, my wife, she's no time for me, no attention for me. I haven't had sex in 2 months. This is miserable. This is terrible, whatever. And my question always is, well, do you date her? Mm-hmm. And they look at me like, yeah, we go out on Monday nights, or we do this. That's not what I'm talking about. When's the last time you rubbed her feet? Right. When's the last time you rubbed her back? When's the last time you did things that you would have done before you were married to keep her attention? Just because you're married doesn't mean that you stop doing those things. Those efforts, and by the way, ladies, it's right back on you, because there's only so long that a man can date his wife and be rejected. That it just doesn't work, right? So to me, that intimacy and the strength of that relationship is the very most important part of a man feeling masculine and healthy, how he's generating that masculinity, as opposed to, which has also happened when marriage is bad, I'm out looking for attention from some other woman at dinner, right? Like, will you just please make me feel good about myself? I just need, it's a must. And I know people think it isn't. I know they'll argue with me. It's a must. And my wife told me forever that compliments didn't matter to her, and me, treating her the way it means everything to her. And now after 35 years after our first date, she will tell you, yeah, I mean, when we are connecting, everything is easier. It's a different world.
I think going back to what you were saying before is, I think both men and women, and spouses of all kinds, we don't know what we're doing when we're parenting.
That is the truth.
We just don't. We don't, and we have this expectation of ourselves. And I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell us. I don't know if this is a more male thing, but we feel like we ought to. There's a voice inside my head that I ought to know, that I ought to be able to be in command of this situation, and know what.
In therapy, we say you're shooting all over yourself.
Yeah, I've heard that before too. Right. Yeah, don't shoot all over yourself. And I think that's like going back to what Brian was saying when he bumped into his buddy. I think it feels like such a scary thing, but it's really just a little soap bubble, and all it took for you to pop that soap bubble was for you to throw that out there to your buddy. But yeah, I'm struggling with this. I don't know what the hell to do with that. And then everybody kind of lets their guard down, And when you can just all agree that like, we're just making this up. I don't know what we're doing. I mean, you know, and I don't know of anybody who's more qualified than I am, not to sound but I've been a pediatrician for over 20 years and a dad for over 20 years. And I don't know what, I mean, stuff comes up and my wife will go, what should we do about this? I don't know.
But you know what not to do. But you've learned some things not to do.
Right.
Right.
And well, and you can learn. So what you learn to do is you can pause for half a second. If no one's about to get hit by a car, you can go, you know what? I need to think about this for a second.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to call a friend. Maybe I need to call a therapist. Maybe I need to call a best friend or talk to my spouse. I talk to a lot of people about you need to have a strategy partner, and that could be, ideally that's your spouse, but it can be other people too. And once you kind of get to that thing of like, I don't know, now you can have an authentic conversation. I think a lot of this thing we're talking about boils down to authenticity, and authenticity here is we don't know what the hell we're doing, and that is we are winging it.
That's what, you know, my business, which is Teen Savvy Coaching, one of the taglines is you don't have to wing it. You know, I could be a strategy partner for you. Because parents are like dying for what you're talking about, and there are plenty of single parents or parents who are doing it on their own because their spouse is traveling a lot or they're deployed or whatever the, you know, injured, like whatever the reason. You know, like there's parents who just don't have the strategy partner in-house. But I could not agree more that doing this solo is so hard. Like having someone to tag team with, or at least bounce your stuff off of, is so critical.
Yeah.
So going back to what Brian was saying, hold on, that one of the most if we're talking about masculine, or one of the most mature things you can do is put your ego aside and just go, I don't know, I'm stuck on this. That's kind of what Brian, I think, was getting to, is like, let's just put the ego aside. That's true. If we're talking about strength, true strength, put your ego aside. And then you can jump into a real conversation with someone.
So Sam, I don't know your background for your parents, how you witnessed any of those types of things. For me, I came from a divorced parents, very young. I was very young when they got divorced. One of the challenges that I was able to manipulate, and as off as a lot of these kids' minds are at young ages, right? They just are incapable of certain types of thought or certain types of understanding. They can manipulate parents in ways that you would think they would have to be 70, you know, in order to be that, right? So
it starts at age 2. It starts at age 18 months. Two. Yeah.
So
once they're verbal, Chip. Once they're verbal.
So the thing that I realized with my parents, right, and then my mom and stepdad, who again were not necessarily always aligned, was if I'm going to talk about dads for a minute, if you say to a dad, well, what are you doing? What are you working on? What are you struggling with? A lot of times they don't even know, because they don't know where they're going. So the one thing that I think is so important is to first figure out what you're trying to accomplish, right? So you have some parents who say, I want my kids to be happy, right? And my first response to that, dad, is to say, well, great, just give them a whole bunch of candy and a BB gun and a puppy, right? And let them go, because that'll make them happy for, look, is that really what you want, right? And then it's, well, I want them to be healthy. Well, okay, I can definitely sign on with the healthy part of that, right? But do you want them to be, you know, healthy idiots? Do you want them to be healthy people that contribute nothing to society and live in the woods in a commune? And like, once you can really identify what's important to you, right? And some parents want high performers. I want kids that make the world a better place to be in. I want kids that make a room a better place to be in. So when I'm raising mine, my whole idea, and again, I had different pathways: nonverbal, severely autistic child, girls that, you know, could converse with anyone, do anything in the world. I had to have kind of divergent paths, where one was try to just keep him safe and plan for his future and worry about that. And the others were, I want you to be able to go into a room and have people glad you're there and feel like that room is a better place because you're there. And the rest of it, I thought, would take care of itself. If you can get that end point and then work backwards, right? That to me is the most valuable. And I'm going to steal more airtime from you, Chip. I'm going to tell you something he told me years ago. And I think your moms will get this far more. When I've repeated this to dads, you can see them cringe. Melissa, this is this one, right? So
this was early. I think I know what you're going to say. This was early.
our daughters were like two. Our sons and daughters, the oldest, were the same age, right? So our daughters were like 2 years old, and we were having some conversation, and he said to me something
Wait,
that
you need to introduce the conversation, because I did not make this up out of the blue.
I jokingly said, well, look, I've already got a plan for my daughters. She's going to be a lesbian until she's 25. Then she'll change to be straight. Then she's going to get married to the first guy she meets, have babies, and live happily ever after. Of course, that's my 2-year-old.
I think you said something about your plan was that she would start having sex at age 40 or something like that.
Something along those lines too. So my dear friend said to me, well, who do you want her to be when she's 40? And I said, she's 2. And he said, yeah, but who do you want her to be when she's 40?
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean? I want her to be a mom and a wife, and I want her to be a good friend, and I want her to be, still my baby girl, and I want her to be all these different things. And he goes, do you want her to have
Wait, you glitched on the important word. Say that again.
Do you want her to have a good sex life with her husband? Is that what you said? Yeah.
Do you want her to have a good sex life with her husband? And I was like, she's 2. And I said, but
he threatened. I believe his fist came up like this. He was ready to. He was like, he threatened to punch me.
So I said,
by the way,
yes.
What sex educators say, like, this is what I say to parents when I'm a sex educator.
Right.
Like, this is what we say. Like, we're teaching your kids to have like a good, healthy sex life later.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, I do. I want her to have that with her husband, right? My wife came from a dad who was not a loving, not a supportive, not, very difficult father. So for me, I was like, I don't want that for my daughter. I do want her to have that. I do want her to experience these things. And he said, well, how are you going to get there? Right. And then we talked about letting them kiss some frogs so they know when Prince Charming comes along, and letting them make a mistake, and communicating with them about what it's like to be a young man and what it's like. So I had the sex talk with the girls. Right. It's just my wife it's just not her strength on it. And I am thrilled that I was given that opportunity to have that with them. And I would encourage more dads to do it, because there's things only moms. There's things only moms can really help their daughters with at times, right? But there are so many things that dads put on the moms to communicate and share, that dads need to be saying and then modeling. They need to be modeling the way they treat their mothers, right? The mothers of the daughters. They need to be showing how to apologize and mean it. They need to be showing how to be wrong. They need to be showing all this. And I think that's a big gap to where I think things should be and where things are in most households, even though you talked about the new gender roles.
Yeah. I agree. We're closing in on time, but Bryan, I wanted to ask you a question. It's a little bit of a sensitive one, because we're approaching Father's Day, and Father's Day is amazing, but being a father is full of ups and downs. It's full of heartstrings, and sometimes it's also full of grief. And I know that you have lost a child. And how, I mean, I don't know if Father's Day is a big deal for you. I don't know if this is like, if remembering your son on Father's Day, like, brings things up, but what do you recommend for families for whom parenthood and big, heavy grieving feelings are interwoven? And I know you can speak from your heart on that one.
Yes. So we lost my son for a pretty tragic accident in 2019. And I will say that people struggle more than we do. And the reason I think is that I've had them say to me, well, I just didn't know if I brought it up, if it would upset you or whatever. And to which I respond with, do you really think I forget about it when you don't bring it up? Like, it's an ever-present thing, number one. But the other thing is, I beg people to bring it up. We celebrate him. We celebrate his birthday. So we celebrate, all sorts of things. We did, got drunk on his 21st birthday. And there's an old movie, I won't bore you with all the details, but there was an old movie, and Al Pacino was speaking about a friend of his who's died. And he says, they say you die 2 times in this world. The first, when you take your last breath, and the second, when your name is spoken for the last time. So for us, we will never stop speaking his name, never stop telling stories, never stop celebrating it. And I would say that the strangest thing of all is that isn't that Father's Day is ruined by it, or that, the bigger thing is that, to me personally, it was very hard to actually feel like it was okay to be happy when I felt happy,
Yeah.
right? Chip was the one who actually came to me and said, look, it's okay to be happy. Just like it's okay to cry, it's okay to be sad. It's also okay to be happy, right? You
Wow.
remember that and feel that. And so I would, those waves that we all know about, right? That hit you out of the blue and you don't know about, they're going to come. But when you feel good, when you feel happy, do not ever, ever, ever steal that from yourself, from your lost one, from the ones that are here. So yeah, I Father's Day is wonderful, Mother's Day is wonderful, and there's tears sometimes, but they're good ones.
That's a wonderful reminder, not just for those who are dealing with loss themselves, but if you're not dealing with loss, someone who is, right? Like
Right.
you right? It's pretty hard to go through this world without knowing someone who's been through something hard. So a wonderful reminder to, keep the names in the present, to celebrate, because the only reason there's pain with loss is because there's also great love, right? And the love doesn't go away when a person does.
And I think if you're a loved one of in that situation, you also don't know what to do, and you're, like Brian said, you're worried about saying something. And I think I would encourage people to say something, and it can but not say you must be ... It's just, I love you. You can always start with I love you, and I'm thinking about your kid.
That's my favorite. When Chip will call me, or my other like inner circle will
Not
call
on
and go, hey
Father's
man,
Day, on March 14th, out of the blue.
Yeah, out of the blue, and just say, man, Bowen is so on my mind today, right? Just really was thinking about him, feeling him today, whatever. And I love that. It is such a like amazing, fulfilling kind of a thing.
And if I mean, that works out. I've found that you do love that, and so it strengthens our bond. For other people, that it might be too soon, or that might not be their style. And if they tell you that, or if they say, I don't want to hear that, or even if they get angry, again, we got to put our ego aside and then go, okay, that's not about me, that's about them. And you just take it as feedback. Okay, that's not how I can express my love or condolences to this person, but you weren't wrong to do it. I think
right. That's right.
I think we keep our mouths closed too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Not this crew.
Not us. No.
Good hooligans, there. Back to good hooligans. Brian and Chip, it has been such a pleasure to have you as guests on Parenting Shrink Wrap. I know Melissa you've been in her orbit for a long time, but for me to get to know you and speak with you for a bit, it's very clear the positive energy and dynamics you have between you, and I'm sure that the show is going to reflect that. And so people can tune in on just all the standard podcast.
Eventually, yes. Oh, and you're not getting off the easy. We'll have you guys on. This is going to be like a home and away kind of thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fine, be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in, for listening, for being the kind of parents who appreciate hearing from good hooligans, and for raising the next generation of world changers. We love you. We love your kids, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of Parenting Shrink Wrap.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on this wild ride called parenthood here at Parenting Shrink Wrapped. We hope today's episode gave you some useful tools and maybe even a few laughs to help you navigate the twists and turns of raising teens and kids.
Remember, parenting is a journey, not a destination. And no matter where you are on the road, we're here to help you stay on course. Whether it's monumental meltdowns, teenage turmoil, or just the everyday chaos, you don't have to travel this path alone.
So until next time, keep your seatbelt fastened, your sense of humor intact, and your eyes on the road. We'll be back soon with more compassionate conversations and practical strategies to support you and your family.
Don't forget to subscribe to Parenting Shrink Wrapped wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you've enjoyed today's show, we'd love it if you'd leave us a review and share it with a friend.
If you have suggestions for topics you'd like to see us cover in the future, feel free to send us an email at parentingshrinkwrapped@gmail.com.
Until we meet again, take care and enjoy the ride.